Steve, great to see you again.
Hey, Mr. Jimmy, it is awesome to see you again. How you doing?
I'm great. I am so excited. Welcome, Park Valley Elementary. We're so excited to have you here again. Thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Steve, have you been enjoying the weather? Maybe not the last 2 rainy days that we've had, but a little bit of warmer weather in the week?
Oh, it's wonderful. The trees are blooming, flowers are out. It's great.
Absolutely. And it reminds me, even though we're just in spring, that we've got summer right around the corner, and I am so excited for my favorite summer treat. Do you want to guess what my favorite summer treat is?
Sure. Is it honeysuckle?
It is actually, yes, it's honeysuckle. Very good. Let's go home. No, actually, it's much colder than honeysuckle. That's my hint.
Colder than honeysuckle.
I am talking about ice cream.
Oh, the best.
Yes, that's right. I'm talking about ice cream. And I wanted to know if you wanted to guess what my kids, I have 3 kids, and what their favorite flavors of ice cream are. I'm going to make it really easy for you. I'm going to throw you some pictures. So here is my 3-year-old's favorite ice cream.
Okay, obviously strawberry.
There's the strawberry right there. Here is my 9-year-old's favorite, going with the classics.
Oh, that chocolate looks amazing. That's my favorite.
My mouth is watering right now. And here is my 6-year-old favorite, which is kind of a curveball for a favorite. But yes, that's mint chocolate chip.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Here's my favorite. While it's not actually my favorite flavor, I'm lactose intolerant, so I need anything with 0 lactose in it is going to be my favorite. And the reason I bring up that last one is because we clearly had 4 different favorites right there. But my kids, whenever we go have ice cream as a family, you know what they do? They exercise their humility, and they let me know, or they let me pick the one that's not going to make me sick, because they are choosing to put others first by giving up what they think they deserve. So while they're not getting their favorite ice cream, they know that it's the type of ice cream that I need. So they're being really humble. And probably a good thing that they know is that we're going to get a vanilla one, so they can add whatever favorite toppings they want to on top of that. But I think it's a really cool example to say at any age, 3, 6, and 9, you can still exercise humility just like Jesus, even when it comes to something as simple as picking ice cream flavors.
What an incredible example. That is awesome. They're putting you first by choosing the ice cream that you can eat. That's awesome.
That's right. Because there are a lot of times in life where we're going to have to make a decision. Do we dig our heels in and really, really try to get our way? Or do we look at what Jesus did and try to put others first? And that second way, doing it the way Jesus did, is what turned the whole world upside down. So now, normally is where we would break into a game, but I don't have a game today, but I do have a different idea that you can do at home that I think would be a lot of fun. So each week, Miss Vivian puts together these awesome videos where you can do crafts. And so this is one from Easter. So if you ask your parents if they can take you to Facebook and go to Park Valley Kids page, underneath the videos, there's all kinds of instructions, step by step, for how you can make those cool crafts. So I would suggest doing that either by yourself or as a family, but always ask your parents' permission first before you jump on a computer. But for right now, we are going to put on some worship music. So sing loud, dance proud, and just have a great time worshiping God.
Everywhere that I go, you're there with me. Even in the night when I cannot see, I know you're by my side and I will be just fine. Oh God, you're always good to me.
Hey, Park Valley kids. We're going to pick up our big story right where we left it off 2 weeks ago on Easter. Remember, Easter had come and Mary and Peter and John had come to the tomb and they had found it empty. Well, later on that very same day, 2 more of Jesus' followers were taking a long walk. They were walking from the village or from the city of Jerusalem to the village of Emmaus. And that's about a 7-mile walk. That's about as long as it is, or as far as it is, from Park Valley Church to Mod Pizza in Gainesville. It's about 7 miles, and it would take about 3 hours to walk. It takes you maybe 5 minutes in the car, but to walk, it would take about 3 hours. So this is a pretty long walk. But as these 2 followers of Jesus were walking along, they were joined by a visitor. Somebody else fell in beside them and just started walking with them and talking to them. Let's pick up the story in Luke chapter 24. In verse 14, it says they were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. You see, God made it so that even though they knew Jesus, they couldn't actually recognize that Jesus himself was walking with them. So, Jesus, as he was walking along, said, "What are you discussing together as you walk along?" And the men, it says their faces were downcast. They were very sad. And one of them, named Cleopas, asked him, "Are you the only one visiting Jerusalem who does not know the things that have happened in these days?" "What things?" Jesus asked. "About Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "He was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. The chief priests and the rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one that was going to redeem Israel. And what is more, it's the 3rd day since all of this took place." What's funny is they were telling Jesus about Jesus, and they didn't even realize it. They were telling Jesus about how, this is why they were sad, because they had seen him falsely accused, put on trial, sentenced to death, crucified. But then, they were also saying, but, maybe he rose again. So what's really funny is Jesus then says to them, he said, "How foolish you are." And he said this very lovingly. "And how slow to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Did not the Messiah have to suffer these things and enter his glory?" And then Jesus proceeded to tell them. He went back into history, back with Moses, and from Moses forward, just like we've been telling this story the past several months, he told them everything about how all of history was building to set up Jesus coming to die on the cross to save mankind from its sins. And the men were amazed. And as they were nearing the end of their journey, they said, "Hey, why don't you come sit down and have dinner with us? It's late. Instead of going on, have dinner." And Jesus agreed. So he sat down with them. And remember, they still didn't realize that it was Jesus. They just thought it was a fellow traveler. But Jesus picked up the bread and he broke it and he gave thanks. And in that moment, the men realized who he was. And in that very same moment, Jesus disappeared from their sight. Well, these guys had had a long journey and they were tired. But you know what they did? They got right up and booked it right back to Jerusalem. They found the other disciples, they waited for them to all quiet down, and they told them everything that had just happened, that Jesus was alive. And the amazing thing that we can take from this is that, you see, the disciples, they thought that God's plan ended right there with Jesus' death. They didn't realize just how big God's plan was. But here, when this happened, they started to realize just how huge God's plan is and what a very small understanding we have. And that's the lesson that we can take for us today. In fact, that's our bottom line. It's just remember this. There's always more to discover about God's plan. You see, be sure God has a plan. He knows exactly what's going on. He knows exactly what's going on in your life. He knows every difficult thing that's happening to you. He knows every great thing that's happening to you too. But even in, right now, let's face it, things are really different. It's a little bit confusing around these times, but God has a plan, and you have a critical part in it. And just remember, you can trust God no matter what. Let's pray. Dear God, thank you so much that you have a huge plan. Thank you so much that we're part of that Jesus is such an amazing part of that, and that everything that he did for us. Thank you so much for that. And I pray that when times get tough, we would remember that we can trust you and that you're up to bigger and better things. In Jesus' name, amen.
That was another awesome story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Mr. Steve. And that's just another great example about how Jesus dying on the cross isn't the end of the story. In fact, it was just the next beginning in our story. And this is just another amazing story. So thank you so much for sharing that. I while you were telling, I was just thinking in my head, like, how crazy it would have been to have been one of those two guys. I can't even imagine what it would have been like to not only just have a stranger just come up and start joining you, but you know what, I'm going to do the right thing and I'm going to tell him about Jesus, but then have it actually turn out to be Jesus. And then while we're there having dinner, he reveals himself to me, and I finally get it, like, oh my goodness, I've been talking to Jesus the whole time about Jesus. And then right then he disappears. It was just an incredible thing. I always try to put myself in the story, and yeah, I probably would have been a little freaked out or a little weirded out by it. Or to use the term that we're learning right now, is I'm pretty sure Jesus would have turned my world upside down right there, just like he did. And it was really cool because they knew a lot about God. They knew a lot about Jesus. But they didn't quite have the full story. They were saying that he was a prophet, but they didn't really put together that he was the complete Son of God and the actual Savior of our world. So even though they knew a lot of stuff, Jesus was still able to teach them. And another way of looking at humility is sometimes admitting that we don't always have the answers, that we don't know everything. And so that's true for you and I as well, Mr. Steve, is that, you know, we may know a lot about the Bible, but there's still so much out there that we don't know. And we're always learning. And as long as we use Jesus to fill in those blank spaces of God's ultimate plan, then I think we're going to be on the right path. And so just remember our bottom line, which is there's always more to discover about God's plan. And the basic truth that we talk about is make the wise choice. So we want to make the wise choice that we're looking to grow our relationship with Jesus so we can further understand how we fit into God's plan and greater understand our role for expanding and talking about Jesus to other people in our lives. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us. So excited again to be able to do this. From Mr. Steve and I, you guys have a great day and stay happy.
Stay safe.
Stay healthy.